should have strapped the phone right on that. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I didn't even notice that.
Are you in love with him?
$10 million bill there.
Are we good? Are you picking up sound? It's okay, keep talking, and we're still working on this. Yes? In theory, everything works. Are we recording everything at least so that those that are trying to watch the live stream don't lose their minds when they... Sorry? Jeff and Stephanie were supposed to be outside watching. Yes? They're up here? Yes? No? Where are we? Are you able to hear? You're what? I can't see. So we're good? Matthew, apparently we're good. We're good? Oh, thank goodness, we're good. All right. Apparently we have liftoff. Two gentlemen looking for seats. Raise your hand if there's an empty seat next to you. There you go, pick a spot, boys. And so they leave. Like, not sure how that makes sense. There's some spots over here. There's one literally right over there. There you go. Just do a few excuse me's, you're good. All right, welcome everyone. Thank you for your patience. We talk about how, the various elements of the environment, the pest forces change and create, force you to shift your strategy. I think we just had to demonstrate that when the T of technology sabotages you, risks and contingency plans, a big thing in cases. Right here, we're living it. All right, so welcome to the Q&A for the Starbucks case. I'm really, really, really excited to be welcoming and introducing you to Ryan Haggerty, whose name may, oh, look at that. Do you see the reactions? They were like, ooh. Who is indeed the protagonist in the case, who you'll be helping with your recommendations. And Sean Cameron, who is a graduate of our very own BBA program, works with me on the JDC training, and I'll extend that to say he's a friend as well. So really, really happy to have them both today. I'm going to hand over the microphone. Perfect. All right. Yeah, we do need to be quiet because there's a lot of you in here. I'm going to hand over the microphone to Ryan and to Sean, but before they start introducing themselves, I want us to welcome them with a warm round of applause. And just a quick public service announcement, because I may very well forget this in the next hour. Some of you didn't get to swipe on your way in, and so we don't realize you're here, but you still want to get credit for being here. Make sure you swipe on your way out, okay? So if you didn't swipe on your way in, swipe on your way out, okay? Perfect. Ryan, it's all yours.
Thanks, Sophie. I got this.
You're on. We're good.
Good afternoon, everybody, and hello to everyone on the live stream. I'm very happy to be here today. Myself and Sean are very, very excited to talk to you guys about Starbucks Canada today, and more specifically, Starbucks Rewards, the loyalty program. This next hour or so is about you guys. Like, sure, I'm here to answer your questions and help you guys write the best case, but ask me anything and everything. I really don't want you guys to hold back. If you have to ask me a question afterwards, send me an email, send me a tweet, I don't care. Send me any question you guys have so that I can help you guys do your best job with the case. This hour is for you guys, not for me. I'm here for you, so do not hold back. So maybe we'll give you guys a quick intro of ourselves, what we do at Starbucks before we dive in. Sean, do you want to kick us off maybe?
Yeah, for sure. So as Sophie said, hi, my name is Sean Cameron. I am a 2015 Laurier BBA grad with Co-op. My 3 co-ops were at Pepsi, then at TELUS, and then at P&G, and I worked at P&G on a couple brands like Crest, Oral-B, and Gillette. And then about a year ago, I went over to Starbucks. I'm an associate brand manager at Starbucks. I cover all of our ice beverages. So I apologize if you've heard this joke before. If you have bought an ice beverage in the last couple months, I thank you. You're helping me to afford rent in Toronto.
Nice.
And what I do basically every day is I help bring new products to life. So if you ever had a mango dragon fruit refresher or any of our new frappuccinos, my job every day is to go out into the market, find out what all of you want, and then try and bring those products to life. I'm super excited to be here. The story of this fall live case is actually one of Sophie and I talking when we were in 4th year, and another person was also talking. We're like, wouldn't it be great if students, when they were on campus, could get real life experience helping companies right out of the gate? And Sophie was like, yeah, and I was like, yeah, and then I graduated and left all the work to her. So excited that I can merge 2 of my loves, which is this school and one of my favorite brands, which is Starbucks, and we're really here to help out and answer any questions you have for us today.
Nice. So you guys, I'm trying to think back to the case and what you guys already know about me, but maybe I'll start before Starbucks. So when I got out of school, one of my first jobs was working for Scene, the loyalty program, free movies. So I was working for Cineplex specifically, but the program is owned by Cineplex and Scotiabank, so I often referred to them as mom and dad, because they both owned the company. But really my role at that company was all about, once a consumer became a member, how do we keep them engaged in the program? So my role was really, once you filled out that awesomely long enrollment flow and became a member, how do we keep you active on your card? How do we keep you educated on the benefits, et cetera, et cetera? So my job was all about keeping you using your card in its simplest sense. I was at Scene for about 7 years or so that's really where I fell in love with loyalty and data and marketing decisions based off of data. And then from there, I joined Sean and many others at Starbucks, where really my role is twofold, as I'm sure you already know, but the two parts of my role are really acquisition. So in its simplest sense, how do I get more people to become members in the program? So really I look at that in 2 different ways. Looking at existing customers of Starbucks who do not have the loyalty program or are not members of the loyalty program, which I don't know why. So how do I convince those people to become members? I hope that's none of you. And secondly, non-consumers of Starbucks, so people that are shopping at Tim Hortons or wherever else that they shouldn't be shopping, but they are, and are not yet Starbucks customers, and therefore not members. So 2 different strategies and 2 different perspectives on consumers that I'm trying to get to become members. The second part of my role is all about partnerships, which is really what this case is really about. And really, in its simplest sense, partnerships is a pretty simple term, but what companies does Starbucks Canada want to partner with so that it becomes a win-win scenario for both brands? And really, that's exactly what we're trying to get at in the case, where in the case, I think you probably read that Starbucks Canada has recently had various conversations with the US, and the US said yes. how long we have. And bi-weekly basis based on how much money you're spending, which is very, very, very rewarding for consumers. So I would say attainability is one key area that sets us apart from other loyalty programs.
Okay, another question that we have is, does Starbucks have any secondary target markets beyond those with a millennial mindset?
Yeah, the rest of the Canadian population. No, but the millennial mindset is absolutely our primary. It's less of your typical target audience. You know, your typical target audience in school is all about demographics. So you're targeting 18 to 34, males, blah, whatever, in an X province. The millennial mindset is different. It's much broader. It is really a psychographic targeting strategy where we're targeting people with a specific mindset. We're targeting people who love to stay connected with the world, both in the digital environment and in the physical environment. So think about it. That's probably your parents, or they try. They're trying to stay connected with you guys and their friends through social media. Sometimes they embarrass themselves. But yet they're also staying connected to their friends and family and you guys in the physical world. So that's one component of millennial mindset. The other is, you know, they love experiential elements. It's less about loyalty programs that reward you and give you a certain product. It's more about the experience along the way. So I think to tie it back to your question, the focus is really millennial mindsets, but because people with a millennial mindset, but because that is so broad, we don't necessarily have a defined secondary. It's just really the rest of Canadian coffee drinkers, because as Sean just quoted, there is a lot of them. So we're trying to get all of them into our stores.
So another question we have are, what strategies does Starbucks typically use to convince partners to enter into an agreement?
Say that again.
What strategies does Starbucks use to convince partners to enter into an agreement?
Ooh. Yeah, quite honestly, we don't need to convince partners to enter into an agreement. No, and I mean that honestly. Like, we're Starbucks. We are a very, very, very powerful global brand. There's a lot of brands that are coming after us to partner with us. Yes, there are some convincing that is required in terms of, you know, what are the fundamentals of the relationship or the value prop that we're coming together on. But beyond that, there's a lot of brands out there that would love to partner with Starbucks. So there isn't a lot of convincing required. It's just what are the fundamentals of the offer and how are we both going to win from it, I would say.
So another question, more of a clarification question, is can you reiterate what the difference is between a strategic partnership and a promotional partnership?
Yeah.
And maybe perhaps provide an example of each just to make that concrete.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and to be clear, this is a definition that I've kind of made up myself. This isn't necessarily industry-wide, but the way that I look at the two, you could really look at it in three particular ways. The amount of time in market, the impact it's going to have on business, as well as how much effort and resources and funds it's going to take to get set up. So if you think about a promotional partnership, it's exactly what it sounds. It's promotional in nature. It's in market, it's going to create a lot of noise, and then it's going to drop out of market and be gone. So with those partnerships, you know, they could be a day, a week, a month, a year long, and typically the integration, and when I say integration, it's really all about how our systems, and if our systems, and when I say that I mean like the Starbucks database and partner A's database, are they connected? So what I'm getting at is how much integration is required. So with a promotional partnership, typically there isn't any integration required. An example of integration before I go on, think about like your bank account. This is the simplest analogy. When you swipe your debit card, you could go into online banking 3 seconds later and you'll see that transaction. If you're earning, say, Scene points on that transaction, it's going to then show up in your Scene account in real time. There are other loyalty platform, bank platforms, just any other types of platforms out there that don't necessarily do that. One example is my RBC Rewards credit card. It gives me the travel points on a monthly basis. So it builds them up, and they're pending for a month, and then on a monthly basis, they award them. To me, and to probably a lot of you guys, I want real time. I don't want to wait until the end of the month to be like, I got that much. Okay, maybe next month I'll change my behavior. I want to know in the moment. So with promotional partnerships, there typically isn't a lot of that real-time integration set up, because the more real-time that integration is, the more time, money, and internal resources you need to set them up. So typically with promotional partnership, it would be something like a coupon, where you bring that coupon into Starbucks, the barista, the partner, keys that in. That's a promotional partnership. It's simple, it's a piece of paper, it's a code in the back end, and then it's gone. Once it's used, it's eliminated. So that would be how I look at promotional partnerships. On the other side of the spectrum, long-term strategic partnerships are exactly what they sound like. They are 2 to 5 years in duration. They take a lot of time and money and resources to set up, and they have high impact on business results. An example that I was thinking of an example on the way down here, and I was trying to use the Toronto Maple Leafs as an example, and MLSE, and I was thinking about when Scotiabank bought the Air Canada Centre. Didn't necessarily buy the arena, but now they're the key sponsor on it. That's a long-term partnership. That was $18 billion to put their name on something, which is going to remain there for, I think it was like 20 years or something like that. That's a long-term partnership. A promotional partnership, keeping in that same MLSE vein, would be get an email, bring that coupon to the concession stand at the Air Canada Centre, use it once, and it goes away. That would be a promotional partnership. I know I'm making promotional partnerships sound like a coupon. I'm really using that as just an example because it's very simple. Promotional partnerships aren't all coupon based, but I hope that answers your question. So to sum up, promotional partnerships are in and out of market. They're easy to set up, and they have low to medium-ish impact on your business results. And then on the flip side, long-term partnerships are 2 to 5 years in duration. They take a lot of time, money, and resources to set up, but it's worth it because it has that long-term value. Think about marketing. When I try to shout something at you for one day, sure, it's going to have impact and then it's going to drop off. But if I had years and years and years to educate and hold your hand about how to use a particular promotion, it's going to continually rise as long as there's appetite for that partnership in the market. Does that make sense? And again, if you want me to elaborate on something, just put your hand up. You'll get rewarded. So, but otherwise, over to you.
So another kind of question to piggyback off that, are there any past or present strategic partnerships that Starbucks has been involved with that they found particularly successful, and what components of them, or what do those partnerships consist of that you think led to that success?
Yeah, to be honest, Starbucks Canada, as I was mentioning earlier, hasn't really, we've always been, I think, as you read in the case, been a part of Starbucks USA. So where they went, we went. So there was always that gray area of, if Starbucks USA sets up a partnership, it needs to be relevant for Canada, and if it's not relevant for Canada, just exclude them. Now we're at a point where, okay, USA, you can build relationships with American companies, and Canada, you go build relationships with Canadian companies. Revolutionary. So there hasn't been a lot of examples in terms of what's worked and what hasn't worked because of that reason. I will go back to the coupon example. I feel like I'm giving you guys a lecture on coupons, and they're definitely not the way of the future, so do not recommend coupons. But one partnership that we did have was very much coupon-based. And what we found was people were using it. People were getting emails from that partner, bringing that coupon into the store to then redeem for dollars off or bonus stars or whatever it may have been. But what we found was our best customers were the ones that were coming in with that coupon. So really all that we were doing were discounting to our best members, which is something we wouldn't typically do unless it was a particular strategy for it. So in other words, we were putting all these coupons into market to help people, to help non-customers become customers, to help customers that shop a little bit at Starbucks, a little bit at Tim's, a little bit at Second Cup, whatever, to become more so fully Starbucks. And really all that they were accomplishing was that our best members were somehow finding out about it, getting the coupons, and using them before the rest of those slower members, if you will, could figure out how they worked and use them.
Yeah, there's not a lot maybe on the Starbucks Rewards side, but there are definitely some on the product side. So I would highly recommend researching Starbucks' partnership with Conservation International and our goal to make coffee the first sustainable food product in the world. We also have partnerships across the board on our social impact side. So if you look at some of the things we're doing with Feed America, with some of our product that isn't being used in store. There are a couple examples. Look at some of the social impact and look at the value systems that Starbucks always brings to the table. The latest one we've gotten into is we sold our consumer packaged goods or our grocery business to Nestle, and we've entered something called the Global Coffee Alliance. And there's a lot of different components to that that might be interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a valid question. There really aren't a lot, to be honest. I think we called out one explicitly in the case, which was Spotify. So I think that example was done intentionally because they're kind of at the same pace that we are in terms of trying to figure out their own strategy versus a North American strategy. So there really aren't, beyond whatever we've called out in the case, I think, which was only Spotify, that's about it. But I would encourage you to check out anything else on the website because that could very well change over the next day, week, month. So just keep looking at it. But Spotify was the only one. So my example was don't necessarily recommend a partnership with Apple Music because that'll conflict and that'll give me a lot of headaches. No. Do your best. If something, I don't even know about the things they're doing, so I don't expect you to know about it. So no, absolutely not.
Okay, so some of the questions now we're going to shift towards more of the consumer end rather than the partner end. So what current strategies or channels are most effective in bringing on new loyalty program users? So basically, where are loyalty program users coming from today?
Where are they coming from to join the program, you mean? Yeah, absolutely. I don't think this answer will surprise you guys. It's digital media. It's social media. It's being present on Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook, and coming up with strategies through with those platforms. But then it's just digital media beyond that. So you need to have a search strategy so that if they're searching anything to do with Starbucks, they're going to see something about the loyalty program. And then just, in its simple sense, banners everywhere in the world on websites, that is. So when you go to various websites, you need to be seeing Starbucks rewards. So really that's called a programmatic media buy. So really, in its simplest sense, and when I look at acquisition, I look at the cost of acquisition. This really isn't going to impact the case specifically, but happy to chat about it. When I look at acquisition, it's all about cost of acquisition. So if I'm going to spend $100 on a media campaign, I would expect to bring in at least 10 people. So a cost per acquisition for those 10 people is $10 each. So when you use digital media, it's much more cost efficient and effective. So you're able to acquire those new members at a cheaper rate versus doing something like a commercial or using brand ambassadors to be in store to intercept you before you go make your order. Those are much more expensive. So I would say we're focusing heavily in the digital space to acquire new members, both because we've seen those members come in and those are quality members. They're continuing to make purchases, and also because of the cost.
And you mentioned maybe having these brand ambassadors, but we're also wondering if you've considered using employees to help get people onto the loyalty program, and if that's been used in the past as well.
Used employees?
Yeah.
Like
at the checkout or?
In-store, got it. Absolutely. And I think I might hand this over to my product expert to talk about why we don't do that. But absolutely, it's something we discuss all the time. And Sean, chime in. But sure. I think in its simplest sense, if anybody has been to a Starbucks, there's a lot going on. Some drinks are pretty complicated. I mean, I'm pretty simple. I go in, I get a coffee, I put some coconut milk in, and I'm out the door. But there are some people that go in and order crazy drinks. So being able to remember all that, write it down while making a connection with that customer authentically and not trying to sell them something, that is the priority of Starbucks, and that's what sets us aside from other brands. So enabling and allowing those partners to focus on building that customer connection is very important. Yeah. Ooh. Yep. Yeah.
With the syrup shroud.
It's intentional, absolutely. It's not that we encourage them not to. It's more so to approach it authentically. Coming from Scene, if anybody's been to the movie theater, you walk in and you say, hey, 2 tickets to whatever. Do you have your Scene card? And then you go to the box office, do you have your Scene card? And then you go, do you have your Scene card? And they're constantly robotically asking you. Not that there's anything wrong with that. It's just the way that Starbucks approaches business and customer connection and the way that we set ourselves aside from other coffee brands is, like I said, that connection. So if you were to say, hey, can I get a tall, a dark roast, and whatever, and then the immediate response was, yes, do you have your card? And they were focusing on selling you that loyalty membership and less about like, hey, I don't know, hey Dave, how you doing today? How are the kids? You know, how was the hockey on the weekend? Did you see the Leaf game last night? We'd rather them focus on authentically making that connection with the customer versus selling them or pushing something on them. That's not to say I'm not against putting more signs up in store to build awareness of the program, but that's something we're trying to juggle and balance internally. I think that's exactly what we're saying. That's not an area of focus for us right now. It's something that we're going to test in the near future to figure out if it's actually going to drive incremental signups. But that's not an area of focus for us. So for the purpose of this case, I wouldn't focus on the in-store sign-up of leveraging existing employees. It's more so what brands can help bring consumers in our door to learn about our product and then ideally learn about the loyalty program, whether in-store or through digital. But good questions. Gift card.
Oh, yeah.
Just for the purpose of the live stream, can you repeat questions that I asked you just to make sure that we can hear them on live stream too?
Absolutely.
So another question is around what are the largest pain points or areas of confusion that users experience with the loyalty program?
You're talking our loyalty program specifically?
Yeah.
That's a great question. So the question, I'm going to do what you told me to do. What are some existing pain points of the Starbucks Rewards consumer experience? Or ish, that was the question. I don't know that I have a ton of pain points that we've identified within our ecosystem. I may switch that to loyalty overall and what are some pain points within the loyalty industry that, from what I've heard in my almost 9 years in loyalty, what makes customers or members lapse? So why do they stop using that product? Why do they get frustrated? And this was done through many focus groups, both in all areas of the country. And really what I've learned is that loyalty programs need to, as my friend over there said, they need to offer something that's attainable. You like PC Optimum because I get free groceries. Simple. So not to say loyalty programs are all about just giving free stuff away. Loyalty programs need to be simple. They need to be transparent. They need to be innovative. They need to be cool, ultimately doing all of those things to enable you to get free stuff. We want to encourage customers who are buying Starbucks coffee or whatever that product is to keep buying that and exploring our menu, exploring Sean's amazing ice products, to get deeper and deeper into our brand. So that's really the role of loyalty, is to hold your hand and get you deeper into our brand and keep you there and reward you for doing that. So the brands and the loyalty programs that I've noticed that, I won't get into specifics, but as I was saying, it's those that aren't simple. It's any loyalty program that's come out and it's just like, you look at it, you look at the value prop, and it's like, what does that even mean? You're trying to do way too many things. You're taking a piece from this loyalty, this, and this, and you're bringing it together and it just doesn't make sense. So trying to do too much just confuses the industry, and it confuses all of you guys, I'm sure. The second is you need to be transparent. I absolutely despise when I see marketing that is misleading. Do you ever get a subject line? Do you ever get an email with a subject line on it, and you're opening it, you see it in your email, you're like, oh, this is amazing. You open it, it's like, oh. Like, A, that's illegal, but B, that's awful. That's a horrible experience. When you get that feeling and you engage with that brand, does that make you feel good about that brand? When you see that brand and you're trying to then buy, I don't know, a pair of shoes at a later date, is that the brand that comes to mind? No, you automatically have a negative connotation of that brand because of that misleading subject line or legal buried in the bottom of an email. You know, when you go in, you may have done this, you go into a store and you're like, hey, I want to take advantage of this offer, and it's like, oh, it's actually not live today. And it's like, well, it says live today. And then it's like, oh, did you read the legal at the bottom? And then click on the hyperlink and go to the third page. And it's like, no. Who does that? I mean, there are some people that do that. But you need to be transparent and upfront with what the conditions are of that offer, because really transparency enables that relationship. I look at a brand and a member or a consumer as being a friend. So I need to treat you like a human. I need to tell you what you need to know and what you don't need to know, or don't tell you what you don't need to know, to enable the best customer experience for you.
Can I do a quick straw poll? How many people in this room are actually Starbucks Rewards members? And it's okay if you're, so pretty good. And then how many people aren't, just by show of hands? So the easiest way, it looks like it's about 50-50. You tell me. But here's the magical thing about this is this isn't something that you can't reach and realize. Every one of you who isn't a Starbucks Rewards member can go and sign up for Starbucks Rewards right after this, and you can figure out if you see any pain points. And that's kind of the cool thing about this case is it's something that we're really going after, and our Starbucks Rewards penetration has a lot of opportunity areas. So everyone who isn't a Starbucks Rewards member, what I would encourage you to do, it's easy in my opinion, but go out there, sign up for Starbucks Rewards, and figure out what you think the pain points are in the program. There's a lovely licensed store on campus, and there's one just down the street at King University, and each of them are great options to sign up. But what I would say from a lot of these questions, what I'm hearing is a common theme is this idea of pain points and what can we do in store. What I would recommend to you, and again, this isn't just me trying to sell you to go buy more beverages, but go and sit inside of a Starbucks and just see how customers interact with our partners. See if people are using mobile order and pay. Go in yourself and see how you interact and what you think could make that experience better. And then what external brands outside of the Starbucks universe you think would help make that experience better. Yeah. We haven't done as much of that. That's a great point. That's the question was, you seem to do a lot of experience in our stores. There doesn't seem to be as many experience out of store. So from a media perspective, we haven't done as much on out of store. We've done sampling events. Last holiday, we did an experience where we brought a lot of people into one of our stores to experience the holiday with Starbucks. But we haven't done as much out of store. Ryan, if you want to add to any of that, but it's
yeah, I would say you're absolutely right. But it's an avenue that we know internally and have acknowledged internally that we need to sink our feet into. I was going to say dip our feet, but sink our feet into, because we need to be present. If we want to grow brand awareness and then brand conversion and then loyalty membership sign up, it's kind of that funnel. You need to be beyond just in-store and digital media. You need to be everywhere else so that people are aware of your brand, so that it's like, oh, I'm tired, I need a coffee, Starbucks. You think of that versus, oh, I'm going to go to Tim Hortons because it's everywhere, and that's what I've been drinking all my life. So we're trying to, we acknowledge that we need to be in more places, totally.
So another question, or a few questions have been asked around the kind of demographic makeup of your rewards users today, specifically around gender distribution. Gender distribution. So if you have information that you can share about what that makeup is today, has it changed, and are you looking to change it?
Yeah, no worries. So really the question was about demographics of Starbucks Rewards members you're talking specifically? Yeah, absolutely. So our gender split is about 60-40 female to male. That was consistent-ish with what I saw at Scene as well. I'm not saying there's any consistencies with, that's just loyalty overall, but that's what I saw there and what I'm seeing here, 60-40 split. Our average age of our Starbucks Rewards members, and again, average, so this is an average that could be pulled from the bottom or pulled from the top, is about, I think it's about 30, I'm torn between 33 or 38, so I'm gonna go with 35. So it's in that mid-30. I always remember it being a bit higher than I expected, but that's not to say we don't have a ton of younger members and a ton of older members. That's where our average has netted out. And distribution provincially, our two biggest provinces, I don't think this should be a surprise to anybody, are Ontario, specifically Toronto, and Vancouver. As we talked about, one of the questions we asked earlier was where was the first Starbucks location in Canada? It was Vancouver. So it started in Seattle, then they went up to Canada. The first location was in Vancouver, so obviously they expanded that market first. And then secondarily to that was Ontario for obvious reasons in terms of population and all of those wonderful things. So those are our two biggest provinces. That's not to say we're not present in the rest, but those are our two where we heavily have a lot more locations than the other provinces. So I think from an age perspective, gender and province, that's how we skew.
There was a question over here. Yeah. Yep. So the question was, a majority of Canadians drink coffee at home, which is true. Would you consider Amazon to be a competitor? This is a really great question. It kind of goes back to what the whole industry is about. So let's take a step back and look at the coffee industry in general. One thing that may surprise you is that Starbucks is actually a fairly small player in the Canadian coffee market. From a unit share perspective, I can't reveal what it is, but it's smaller than you would think. But we have this incredible opportunity for growth. So yes, online channels, people drinking pods at home, people making their own coffee at home is definitely a threat if you look at it from that perspective. But here's the opportunity. Most of the market is becoming commoditized. If you look at what Tim Hortons is doing, you look at what McDonald's is doing, and as we go down that, what's really going to make the difference is service. There's a really famous quote in Onward by Howard Schultz, which says that at Starbucks, we are in the people business serving coffee. We're not in the coffee business serving people. And I think that's what's really going to differentiate Starbucks in the future is service. It's things like the partner connection, our employees, our baristas in store with you, helping you to have your best day. It's things like Starbucks Rewards, which gives you that added value. It lets you skip the line with mobile order and pay. It gives you discounts like happy hour. So what our big opportunity is, and I won't call it a threat, I'll call it an opportunity, is because we're a smaller player in the market with differentiated products and a service model that isn't like anything else, how do we leverage brand partnerships to help that explode? So brands are going to want to partner with Starbucks for a couple of reasons. A, even though we're a small player in the Canadian market, our brand is very large globally. And then our values are also what comes into play there. And those two things are really what we're going after in the Canadian marketplace. The number 3 highest coffee consumption in the entire world, mostly brewed, mostly at home. How do we get those people to stop drinking the crappy office coffee or going to $1 Tim Hortons or $1 McDonald's and come into Starbucks and have the best experience of their day?
We're supposed to keep it neutral, Sean. No brands. No brands. Yeah, I know. It's the truth.
We're just going to ask that you also field some questions from the top because we're getting some angry students who aren't getting their questions answered.
It's bright up there.
Yeah, sorry. Oh, there they are. Yeah, in the red sweater.
Yeah, it's a great question. So I think really the question is all about, a couple of years ago, I don't remember what year it was, the Starbucks Rewards loyalty program underwent a change. And really what that means was we changed the value prop. So now it's 125 stars that you need to redeem to get something for free. Then it was more of a buy 7 things, I think it was, and get 1 free thing. So it moved from a transaction-based loyalty program to a dollar spent loyalty program. And I think having worked on both Scene that went through many, or I think 2 program changes, like substantial program changes, and the Starbucks one, I wasn't around for that, but I think change brings on negative no matter what the change is. If I said, hey, guess what, consumers, we're now making, this isn't true, hey, we're now making a free beverage 20 stars, there would be negative feedback because it's just change. It's just how we as humans interpret brands and what is behind the change. And again, that's not true. But I think it's just, on social media, the amount of negative feedback that, I can't really comment on the Starbucks one, but I'll comment more on some of my previous program changes. There is always negative feedback. Once we then get, I see the various hands up, so give me a sec. Once we then, educate to that consumer or that member what this actually means beyond their initial reaction and how they interpreted it based on the 30,000 negative Twitter comments and they jumped on that bandwagon. Once we actually educate what the changes are and how that impacts you or you, most consumers come around to the change or the changes that I've been a part of. To your second part of your question in terms of did you make a change based on, or did you have to change based on hearing any of that negative feedback? Again, I can't necessarily comment on the Starbucks one because I wasn't around, but I think the premise would be that no, we wouldn't necessarily change or go back, and again, this is more theoretical if we were to do it again today. We wouldn't go back and be like, oh, okay, sorry, we're changing it back. It would more so be, okay, great. We acknowledge that there's a lot of negativity in the market about our brand because of this change. How do we now go to market with some sort of response to help settle that? And whether that's with something positive like a contest to help alleviate that negativity, or some offers, some coupons, whatever. But I think to your question, we wouldn't necessarily, if we heard negative, go back and change it because of those negative comments that we heard. I hope that answers your question a little bit. I see your hand up, but I'm just gonna see if there's anything else up there. I don't.
Oh, way up there.
Go. Yeah, that.
No, it's a good point.
You're totally.
So here's. Do you want to take this or?
Yeah, I'll start off with two comments, and then Sean, you can chime in.
Sure.
I acknowledge you're totally accurate. 100%.
Ryan, let me back you up. Could you kind of summarize what he just said? Because I think half of them couldn't hear him.
Yeah, I'll try to summarize that one. Basically, the premise of his question is, why wouldn't you use your baristas? We call our employees partners. So if you hear me use that word, it's not a partnership. We call our employees partners. Why wouldn't you leverage them in store? Because that's where you guys are going to buy your product, to drive sign up, whether you're taking an email, a phone number down. Because really what he's saying is, not necessarily himself, but the generation is lazy. We're not going to go home and be like, oh, right, that person told me I should sign up later, and bus ride home, whatever it may be, I'll go sign up then. My two thoughts, I have two immediate thoughts, and then Sean, please feel free to chime in.
Yeah.
We've designed the program to be mobile optimized. Every one of you guys have a smartphone in your pocket. There's not a single person in this room that can tell me they do not have a smartphone in their pocket. So what we're trying to prevent is having you need to go home to your desktop computer and sign up, like a lot of loyalty programs are. So it's mobile enabled. There's an app. The app is explicitly for the rewards platform. So what we're trying to do is prevent that drop off, because acknowledge it's like a digital experience. If I click on a banner online to go do an action and there's a pop-up that pops up, I may look at that pop-up and get distracted from what I was trying to do in the first place, and then be like, okay, whatever, I'm going to go back to my case, fantasy football, and forget about what I was doing. So I totally acknowledge that. There's a lot of variables in life that are going to throw you off from what you may have intended to do. So my first response would be that it's all mobile optimized. It's both app and mobile web optimized. So that's really what we're trying to do, is encourage people to download the app. That's the primary. And then my secondary, just to be clear, it's not that we're not encouraging partners or saying to our frontline partners, do not talk about it. It's less about it's more about do it in an authentic way. If you see Dave come in every day and he's ordering that tall blonde coffee and you know his name and you're in conversation with him, bring it up in an authentic way. Like, hey, Dave, like, I know you're not Dave, but I'm just going to keep doing this. Hey, Dave, I see you keep buying this same tall blonde roast every single day. Did you know you probably could have got a free one by now? That's more authentic. That's one-to-one, less of the robotic speech. So it's not that we're saying don't do it. It's just, hey, when it's appropriate and when you've made that connection with that consumer, then you're, I don't want to say the word allowed because that's not accurate. Then we encourage you to do it. So it's twofold. Move away from that. Do it on every transaction so that it doesn't feel authentic. Move away from that and do it when it's authentic, when you have a relationship. And then secondly, it's all mobile optimized. In fact, this isn't us, but I feel like a lot of loyalty programs are moving away from what is their experience on a laptop, on a desktop. They're all going to have it to make sure they're appealing to everybody, but that's not the primary customer experience. Does that answer your question? Ish?
Just a couple of things to add to that. So if you've ever been in a Starbucks in the morning, you know it's usually slammed. So if you can imagine trying to sign up someone for a Starbucks rewards program where there's a lineup of 20 people trying to get their espresso, it's going to be a bit of a challenge. But to a broader approach, the thing I love about marketing personally has to do with more about brain science. So our brains ignore 90% of the things that happen in our world, because if we could see all the signals that are happening in the world, we'd be overwhelmed and we just hide in a corner the whole time. But what marketing has the power to do with powerful brands and using digital channels like Facebook and Instagram and Snapchat and our in-store signage is you may not notice it the first time. You may not even notice it the first 3 or 4 times. But eventually, in your subconscious will signal to you that this is happening. So when you're out and in-store, you may see a banner subconsciously for skip the line if you have Starbucks rewards. And then when you're at home and you're procrastinating and you're on Facebook, you might see another ad that says, hey, get free drinks with Starbucks rewards. And eventually, you're going to have an awareness of the program and go through that funnel to where we actually sign you up. And then we have to make you make a transaction. The partner piece, I think, is really important, though. So our partners on the front line in stores every day are our most important and our best assets. So I do agree with you with that. They have the most influence. But their primary goal is to make the best moment in a customer's day. That might mean getting to know someone's name, or in other cases, they get to know their kids, or they know their favorite order. So sometimes, yes, for those loyal consumers, they'll go in and they'll say, hey, I notice you come in every day and you get your 195-degree triple cappuccino. Did you know you can do Starbucks rewards? And then you can get rewarded for this. And we'll do that, and we have talk tracks developed. I think, to Ryan's point, what we want to get away from, if every single consumer that came in said, hey, have you heard about Starbucks rewards? Hey, have you heard about Starbucks rewards? And you go more than once a month, you're going to get super annoyed. You're going to be like, yes, I've heard of Starbucks rewards. Yes, I haven't signed up yet because I don't have time in my day right here when I'm trying to order my drink and get my banana loaf to sign up for the next 30 seconds because I got to run to class. Does that help? Yeah.
Stay tuned. No, you're totally valid. We're working on it. There's a lot of concerns and constraints when you put a piece of technology that is connected to the internet in a public space. So it's less about, yeah, that's easy. Like, I'll go buy them from Best Buy right now and put them in the stores, tape them to the wall. It's not that easy, especially when you're dealing with a brand like this. So it's not that I'm specifically have a strategy for it, but it's something that we're exploring. We're exploring everything. We've thought of those things hundreds of times, and there's been somebody that said, oh, maybe that's not a good idea for X reason, and it's like, you're absolutely right. So then we try a different approach, right? So it's something that there's fluid conversations going on about that type of stuff. in terms of that, bringing that industry into our world. I see lots of questions. I promised you I would get back to you, so I'm coming up there. Good question. Yeah, so I'll paraphrase that one. Really what she was talking about was the fact that Starbucks food is the majority of it is optimized to be quick serve. So to be able to come in, grab it, warm it up if you want, and go, or eat it while sitting down. At the same time, Starbucks is a great place for people to go to just hang out with friends. I go there for meetings all the time. You probably go there with friends to either catch up on studying or just catch up on life. So would Starbucks be open to looking at a more of a sit-down dining option? And I don't know if those were your exact words, but really the ability to have a piece of food made for you that may take a little longer, acknowledging that you may be sitting there with your friends for 2 hours and not wanting to grab a quick serve sandwich. Is that an accurate paraphrase? All right, cool, thank you. It's an area that I wish I had a food team.
I can answer quickly on that. We don't have a food preparation license in any of our stores. So we can't actually make food in our stores. That is the main reason why you don't get your cream cheese on your bagel when you order it and you have to do it yourself. Oh. But try the sous vide egg bites, they're excellent.
Is there any more questions here? There's about 30 hands up, so I'm going to try to...
If there's questions from the audience, we can take a few. We'll keep fielding as they come in here.
Right.
Just kind of a note to the audience. Remember to be mindful that we're focusing on partners for the loyalty program and mindful of what you can and cannot change in terms of product lines for the case as you're asking your questions.
Yep, good one. I see your hand. I'm going to go to somebody else. Dave, no offense. Let's go to you. Yeah. Sorry, you can't see me. Can you repeat that one? Yeah, it's all good. When? Yeah, fair. So the question was basically when and what. When have we seen the most growth in our overall loyalty program? And if we did see that, what can we attribute it to? Whether or not that was just marketing campaigns or a partnership. So I'm going to try to answer that in a couple different ways. Loyalty program growth overall, so both ourselves and just the industry. I don't know if I put the stat in the case. I can't remember. I got married about 3 weeks ago, and I just got back from my honeymoon, so I'm kind of jet lagged. So I wasn't doing it for that, but so I can't remember what I'm getting at. Is like I'm a little blurred right now. So I got married, and I sprained my finger. In case you're wondering what's going on here. So overall, the loyalty industry has seen tremendous growth over the past, I'd say, let's call it a year and a half. And this is just like people wanting to join more and more programs. Canadians, specifically Canadians, because on the other side of things, in the USA, they're more on the decline. They've hit a tipping point. This is what I've seen. A lot of their loyalty programs are at like 10, 20, 30, 40 million people, and it's like, holy, and we're in the 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to 10. So they're in a totally different bucket than us, right? So they've definitely slowed in terms of overall loyalty membership growth. Canada is absolutely on the incline for sure. I think we called this stat out. On average, Canadians report, because people report not always accurate things, that they have at least 12 loyalty cards in their purse, phone, wallet, drawer, whatever it may be. And on average, they use about 7 of those a year. And again, a loyalty program could be perceived as anything. Like the example I gave is like Uber. It's not really a loyalty program, but they have all this information on you and they're tracking your activity, so it's kind of a loyalty program. So interpret that with a grain of salt in terms of how many people or what people are reporting in terms of how many programs they're part of. So to answer your question, I think in the past year and a half is when we've seen the biggest amount of growth in terms of acquisition, people coming into the program. I got you. There's no partnership that I can attribute that to because, again, back to my original point, we haven't had a lot of partnerships. So really that's been a result of increased overall marketing. Marketing works. So when you do optimize marketing and you figure out strategies for social media platforms, web, digital, whatever it may be, those things, now that we've got those strategies under control, not to say they weren't under control, but now that we've gotten a bit smarter with our marketing spend, we've seen that increase in that. And I personally, I don't want to guarantee you on live feed here, but I would expect that to continue.
Okay, so this is going to be the very, very, very last question because we're at 3:57 and you guys know we're going to want to get out.
All right, purple shirt up, yep. Yeah, so the question was, when looking at partnerships, are you looking more service-based or retail-based? Is that fair? No preference, to be honest. I don't want to say we're casting the net wide, but we're talking to everybody. We need to figure out what our strategy is. Like I said, we don't have any partnerships in place right now, so you guys have absolute clean white surface to figure out what makes most sense to you. And I know we only have a couple minutes left, but let me end with, building off that, I'll end with some things in terms of like, as you guys are thinking these things through, think of them as humans. Like you guys are all humans, you guys are consumers, you interact with brands that you probably hate, and then you interact with brands that you probably love. What do you love about those brands? What do you hate about those brands? Try to take those pieces of love and not hate, or hate and then turn it into love. What do you like and dislike about brands and loyalty programs and partnerships that you may see in the marketplace now that you're looking for them? What are pieces that you like from those? Try to build off those positives, hopefully not the negatives, or turn the negatives into positives, and when thinking through whether it's service or retail-based, because I have no preference. It's just it needs to make sense for the business in terms of helping us grow top of funnel. Does that help a little bit? Good stuff.
All right, before we leave, I want you all to give Ryan and Sean a warm welcome. You've been given tons of information, whether you realize it's valuable or not yet. You will as you dig into this, and if you're smart enough to figure those complications out. Take care, have a good weekend. Happy homecoming, but be safe.
Sorry, if we can
no
make
worries,
one
no
more
worries.
announcement. If you haven't swiped your card, make sure you swipe on the way out.
What's that?
If you haven't swiped on the way in, make sure you swipe on the way out.
Log out.